Welcome to Hike Point of Sale. In this video, we'll be covering how to manage pre-sales by using the backorder feature within Hike. In some cases, you may need to sell products to your customers before they arrive at your store or your warehouse, or even before you order them from your suppliers. In Hike, you can easily manage this pre-sales by using the backorder feature. This video will explain how to do so by covering the following scenarios. So firstly, we'll cover how to create a backorder in your Hike store, how to create the purchase order from that backorder, how to get a summary of all the linked backorders in a purchase order, and finally how to complete the backorder from there. Now before we begin to create a backorder, there's a few things to check in order to make sure that the backorder feature is enabled in your Hike store. So the first thing is that we need to check if the user permissions allows you to create backorders in your Hike store. So we can do so by going down to the left hand side here and selecting the users button and selecting users. Now for the purposes of this video, we're going to assume that you do have a knowledge of how to create users and how to assign permissions if required. If you do need further assistance with this, please select the Learn button on the right hand side here and check out our relevant support articles, or otherwise you can get in contact with our Hike support team by selecting the Need Help button and selecting the Chat with Support option from there. Now by default, the administration user will have all the necessary permissions to create backorders, but for manager roles and under, they may need to have their permissions updated. So in order to check quickly to see if this permission is available, select the Actions button on the right hand side here and select Permissions. From there, you can select the Point of Sale drop down and then select the Process Sale drop down from there. As you'll see here, there's an option for accepting backorders, which is the option that needs to be enabled in order to use the backorder feature. So just check that this option is ticked and then save, and that will ensure that your user has the backorder option available. Next, we need to check to make sure that your Hike store is set not to allow out-of-stock items to be sold. If your Hike store allows out-of-stock items to be sold, the backorder feature won't appear. So we need to check this by going to the store setup on the left-hand side here and selecting the General button. If we scroll down to your general rules, you'll find an option called Allow Selling Out-of-Stock Items. So we need to make sure that this option is unchecked and simply select the Save button in order to make sure that the backorder feature will appear. Secondly, we also need to check the product itself because we're also able to set this setting on the product. So we can do so by going to the Products area and selecting the products listing, which will show a list of the products, and in particular the product we're looking for is the canvas backpack. So we're selecting this option here to open up the information, and if we scroll down to the inventory area, there's a setting which allows you to sell this item even if the item's out of stock. So again, we need to make sure that this option is unchecked in order to have the backorder feature appear. And from there, we'll just save the product. And now we're ready to begin creating a backorder. To do so, what we need to do is select the Point of Sale button on the top left here and select the Process Sale button, which will bring you through to our Point of Sale area. Now what we need to do from here is simply select the item that we've set to be out of stock, which is the canvas backpack. And by doing so, you'll see here that the option is now available to create a backorder. So by selecting yes, this will bring up the backorder screen from there. Now it's important to note that in order to create the backorder, you do need to assign a customer to this order, because if you need to follow up with the customer once the item has been received, we need to be able to contact the customer from there. So if you try to create the backorder without a customer assigned, it will ask you to assign a customer to this backorder. So we can do so by selecting the Add Customer button on the top right here, and you can find an existing customer if there's one available, or otherwise we can add a new customer from there. So we'll add a new customer quickly in order to be able to place this back order. Now once the customer details are there, if we create a back order, a sales summary will be shown. So as you can see here, the back order total is the amount of the product. Now you're able to place a deposit on the product if the customer is placing a deposit. By entering the amount, it will deduct the amount from the outstanding total. And as you can see here, an invoice can be printed for that from there. So if we go to the sales history from here, you'll be able to see here that the item is now placed into your Hike store's sales history. As you can see here, the fulfillment status is marked as back order. For the next part of this video, we'll be showing how to create a purchase order directly from this back order that we've created. Now, this video will assume that you do have knowledge on how to create purchase orders. So if you do need assistance with this, what we recommend for you to do is to go to the inventory section on the left here and select the purchases, which will bring you to the purchase order screen of Hike. Now you can select the learn button on the top right here, which will bring you to the relevant support videos and the support articles on how to create purchase orders from there. Now also, we do need to make sure that the product has a purchase order supplier assigned to it. So if we go to the product and we open the canvas backpack and we scroll down to the suppliers, we can see here that a supplier is assigned to the purchase order from there. So what we'll want to do now is to go back to our back order that we have created by going to the point of sale sales history area. And in the fulfillment status, we can select the create purchase order button, which will bring out a list of the items that's in the order and the relevant supplier that's assigned to that order. So if you select the create draft purchase order from there, it'll come up with another screen where you can assign it to any existing purchase orders if you have any available, but we'll be creating a new purchase order for this. So by selecting that button, it has now created the purchase order for us. So you can see here there's a link now for purchase order 0001. So if we select this, this will open up the purchase order from there. Now you can also access this by going to the inventory section and going to the purchases area again, and this will have the draft purchase order here that we can view. So if we select the purchase order from here to open up the draft again, we can see here there's a lot of standard purchase order information. If we scroll down, we can see that the product has been added to the purchase order already, and one needs to be ordered for our back order. And if we scroll down to the bottom, there's also an option here for linked back orders. So if we select this, what we can see is any information on any back orders that are already in your Hike store from there. So we can see here, this is a copy of the draft back order we have currently created. And it has one of the items that we have placed into this back order purchase order. And it's marked as yet to be received because we haven't sent this off to your supplier yet. So if we just close this quickly, now all we need to do from here now is to save this purchase order and select the email or print option. So if we select the save and print option from there, this will finalize the purchase order. And as you can see here, the purchase order has now been created. And if we go over to the purchase order screen, it's now marked as open. So this is the standard purchase order process, and from here what you'll then do is pass this purchase order to your supplier. Your supplier will send you the item that's listed in the purchase order, and once you've gotten the item, you can reopen the purchase order as shown here and then select the receive option to confirm that we've received the purchase order from there. So here you'll have a finalized receive page where we can check the items. So if we mark the item now as received, Select receive now. We've received everything in this purchase order from there, so the purchase order is now marked as received and closed. So if we go back to the purchases area of the inventory section, we can see here that the status of this purchase order has now been updated to received and closed from there. So now that we've received the item that's in the purchase order from there, the last step is now to finalize the back order. So if we go back to the point of sale area and select the sales history, we can go back to the previous back order that we've created. So we can see here that the purchase order has been created from there. Now that we know that the item's been received, all we need to do is select the pay option from here. And what this will do is bring you back over to the payment screen to process the sales. So we can see here that the balance outstanding, because we've paid a $5 deposit, is $42.85. So if we select the pay option from there, it's going to come up with a payment screen. And if we finalize the payment from there, we can see here the system will now ask if the order has already been fulfilled. So if we select the yes button, it's going to deduct this item from our inventory now. We finalize the order for this. We can print out the invoice if required. And if we go to the sales history area, the item has now been marked as fulfilled and completed. So that ends how to create a back order from there within your Hike store, as well as creating the purchase orders as necessary from there. If you do require further assistance with this, we do recommend for you to go to the Learn area of your Hike store and browse through the relevant videos and the support articles on creating the back orders and how to process sales within your Hike store as well, along with the purchase orders area if necessary. If you still have further assistance that you need from Hike, you can select the Need Help button on the top right here, and you can select the Chat with Support option, which will connect you through to our 24/7 support team, or you can submit a ticket as required from there. Thank you for your time.